So Greg and I were having an argument about this earlier about whether the U.S. is actually out or if they're just hinting. He's thinking that they're out. I'm thinking they're hinting, and we're trying to figure out, like, to try to give themselves some latitude. So we're going to look at a number of clips. You can decide, but this is what is going on right now. Today, it is Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Thanks for doing this, Greg.
Yo, you're very welcome, and thank you, Prof. It's going to be interesting to get our perspectives here, in or out. There's a lot floating around today, and we're going to jump right into it. And let's start here. United States mediation. This is the quote, then I'll show the video. The U.S. will no longer mediate in negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. From the White House, we will continue to help, but we will no longer fly around the world as mediators at meetings. Now it is a matter for the two sides. The time has come for them to present and develop concrete ideas on how to end this conflict. It will be up to them. Here's the video, then we'll get your comment.
Is he considering secondary sanctions on Russia?
Well, we know, again, that he's stated his willingness to do that, about the nature of, clearly we're not removing any sanctions that currently exist. The president wants, in every action that we've taken as a nation, to do it diplomatically. That he clearly, because of the commitment to it. And yet he knows also that there's another part of the world, a whole globe, that needs some attention. And the secretary has also made it very clear that while our style will change, the methodology of how we contribute to this will change, in that we will not be the mediators. That is what I mentioned on Tuesday, and the nature of how this would change is we certainly were still committed to it and will help and do what we can, but we are not going to fly around the world at the drop of a hat to mediate meetings. That it is now between the two parties, and now is the time that they need to present and develop concrete ideas about how this conflict is going to end. It's going to be up to them.
I don't know how you take that any differently.
Yeah, they're giving themselves some wiggle room. They have not said we're out, but they're saying you've got to come to the table, you got to do this kind of thing. And I think they're preparing for that contingency. I don't know that they're directly out, but they're laying the groundwork so that if things don't go their way, they can say, look, hey, this is your thing.
Okay, you stated at the beginning of the video that we were arguing about this. And the fact is, I take that completely differently. It has been my presupposition that we would get a mineral deal, and then the United States would exit. He would consider that a victory. I don't know how you take it. We will no longer fly around and mediate, and quote, it is now up to the two parties. So,
well, they're not saying they're completely out of the thing. They're still willing to be right, but I think they're giving themselves a room to be able to backpedal, but they haven't said that's it, we're done, we're not talking to you anymore.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to the next one then. JD Vance. It is now between Ukraine and Russia. Mission accomplished. Only Trump could have done this to get them talking. So it's not about, as he said, I will end the war, I will bring peace. Now the narrative has changed. Only he could get the two sides talking. We have a mineral deal. And then he says, even Trump cannot stop the fighting. Here you go.
I really don't believe that any person of the 8 billion people in the world, I don't think anybody could have gotten this deal done other than Donald J. Trump. When I say this deal, I mean getting these guys to actually propose a peace settlement. But it's going to be up to the Russians and the Ukrainians. Now that each side knows what the other's terms for peace are, it's going to be up to them to come to an agreement and stop this brutal conflict. It's not going anywhere, Brett. It's not going to end anytime soon. And I think for the Ukrainians, yes, of course, they're angry that they were invaded, but are we going to continue to lose thousands and thousands of soldiers over a few miles of territory this or that way? I hope both of them come to their senses. And if they do, it will be because Donald J. Trump, I think, brokered one of the great peace deals of the 21st century.
I mean, you got the minerals deal. You got that signed. So you're optimistic. Can I say optimistic?
Look, I am optimistic, but it is ultimately, it's hard to say confident because the Russians and the Ukrainians, they're the ones who have to take the final step. We got them talking. We got them offering peace proposals. We got the minerals deal done. I think we're in a place where they've got to say, we're done with the fighting. We're done with losing thousands and thousands of young people. We're done with this. But only Russia and Ukraine can make that decision. That's not something even President Trump can do for them.
Yeah, it's the same weasel words. If they do, then whatever. Then they can take a victory lap, and if they don't, then they can say, well, they've got to figure it out, right? So they're trying to set again. This is the way Trump works, in my estimation. He tries to set the table in such a way that he wins either way, and that's what he's doing. So he's not necessarily out, but he's positioning himself to be out should this not actually work, which is a whole different thing than the first day I'm going to make the deal or within 90 days. So the rhetoric has certainly changed. Absolutely. Again, I concede that.
Okay. Final statement he made was even Trump cannot stop the fighting.
Wasn't that interesting?
But 15 seconds, I can play the video again, or people just rewind and listen. 15 seconds before that, he said Trump will go down in history as the man who brokered the greatest peace deal ever. And then 5 seconds later, even Trump can't stop the fighting. So, okay, so here's from 30 years of experience. They're taking a victory lap on something that's not even real. They believe that they brought recognition to the parties, got them talking. Ukraine now knows what Russia wants. Russia now knows what Ukraine wants. I'm sorry, Trump administration, but Ukraine and Russia both know what each want. They've known for decades. So you haven't done anything, in my opinion. Only Trump could get them talking. Where are they talking at? There's some summit somewhere? They're not talking. That's all smoke and mirrors, man. We're out. We're out.
Yeah, well, so they're not out yet. That's the thing. They're setting the table to potentially be out. They're
Fair
not
enough.
out yet.
Mineral deal's a big deal. That's why he mentioned it again.
Yeah. So passing that was the only thing so far that was allowing them to potentially be out, because then they could have some kind of look what we did, and that's where we are.
Okay, we've had the State Department and the Vice President of the United States both say it's between Ukraine and Russia. I don't know how you don't see that as it's between Ukraine and Russia.
Because they haven't abandoned the field yet. They're setting the table to potentially do that, which might actually be a good thing for Ukraine, given given the way that how unevenly Trump has dealt with Ukraine. So I'm not terribly sad about that.
I'm not either. I'm ready for us to get out, to be honest. Now, I will tell you this. Be careful of what you're looking at on social media today. This news clip is pushing around. This clip is pushing around everywhere. So as I read Russia news, and of course Ukrainian news, and synthesize it and bring it to you guys, Russia's going, okay, good try, but this is from 2023. Don't fall for it.
Let's remind everybody, this is not our war. I mean, this is a war that
I would tell Zelensky, no more. You got to make a deal. I would tell Putin, if you don't make a deal, we're going to give them a lot. We're going to give them more than they ever got if we have to.
So there you have it.
Yeah. I saw that, and I thought, wow, he's changed his rhetoric. That doesn't, something's not right. And this is why.
It's 2023. It's being pushed around Twitter land, Blue Sky land. Guys, it's from 2023. Russia bringing attention to it. It was even on a lot of Ukrainian news. And then Russia was coming back going, okay, that's old. He's not giving you anything, chumps. Yeah. So that's a warning video there, guys. Pay attention to what sources you consume. And let's go here. Now, we'll go to Hat Rubio, which I actually have learned is now...
He's on 3 hats.
No, it's 4 hats. Four hats. He is the United States Secretary of State. I can do it here, actually.
He's taking all the jobs from immigrants who have been deported.
Yes, he is. Here, he's the Secretary of State. He is the Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. He is the Archivist of the United States, and he is Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs.
I hope he's getting time and a half for this.
We don't need to go down that topic. we'll stay on task, but it's, they'll run with the narrative that Trump is tightening his team to only Trump rhetoric and the waltz was not towing the line.
Managerially, this is a terrible idea.
Absolutely.
Certainly there has to be somebody that can take the national security advisor post, for example, that's competent, that can do this in the interim. Certainly there's someone. Even if you dust off Kellogg for a little bit and reassign him temporarily. Well, I mean, so Kellogg actually was it for interim for a week.
Yes.
Certainly he's competent to do. Certainly there's somebody competent. This is silly. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's interesting though, but it just kind of leads me to some disarray the United States is in right now, to be honest, especially in foreign policy, and it doesn't help Ukraine. So let's go to 4 Hat Rubio. He says, we have other, perhaps even more important challenges in the world. I'm not saying the war in Ukraine is unimportant, but I think what's happening with China is more important in the long run for the future of the world. Let's listen to him.
Let's remind everybody, this is not our war. I mean, this is a war that started under Joe Biden. For 3 years it went on. They've made no effort to sort of bring it to a conclusion. And it's a war that has no military solution. In essence, Putin can't take all of Ukraine. Ukraine can't push the Russians all the way back to where they were in 2014. And so the question here is, who's the only leader in the world that can talk to both sides and hopefully bring him to a deal? And that's President Trump. And that's what he's tried to do. For 100 days, he has done efforts to bring about peace, to end the killing, to end the dying, to end the destruction. You know that Ukraine, it's going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars. We for the first time, we haven't known this for 3 years, we kind of can see what it would take for Ukraine to stop. We can see what it would take for the Russians to stop. The problem is those two positions are still a little far apart. And look, we're not going to give up on it in the sense that we're not going to be ready to help if we can. But there does come a point where the president has to decide how much more time at the highest levels of our government do you dedicate it when maybe one of the two sides or both aren't really close enough, when we've got so many, and I would argue even more important issues going on around the world. Not that a war in Ukraine is not important, but I would say what's happening with China is more important in the long term for the future of the world.
Of course, that's being played on Solovyov right now. Today, I wanted you guys to see it. There in Russia.
It's setting the table to withdraw. It's not withdrawn yet. It's setting the table to withdraw. And again, they're consistent with the idea that China is the bigger threat, and this is what we have to focus on. This is what the U.S. military is doing right now, is reorienting itself to a potential a war with China. I've talked to some people that believe that in 2 years we'll be in a hot war with China, with people within the military that have told me that. And so, I mean, this is the way that they're thinking about it. There's a second part of this too. If they're no longer part of the negotiation, they're not on the hook to rebuild when the price tag comes due.
Okay,
it just struck me.
No, that's what the mineral deal will do. It's for.
No. But they don't have to worry about other donations to Ukraine later on, like the rest of Europe will have to worry about. Because hey, look, we're not even part of that. We have this mineral deal. It's going to take care of that, and we have to pay our attention over here. That's what I see.
I will agree with you on this. That out of the 3 video clips I've shown, it was only Marco Rubio who, in my opinion, did confirm your position that hey, we won't abandon. We're going to help where we can, but at the highest level, we have to focus on what's more important, and that's China. So on Rubio's video, setting the stage, we're going to see where the mineral deal is going to become even more important for the potential U.S. exit at a larger scale. I just believe that. Now, a couple of things, and I do have the Russian responses and their thoughts on this, but let's go to this first. USA next move. A couple of articles out there. It's on Politico, it's on Reuters, it's in other places. Trump's mineral deal with Ukraine leaves scramble for how to handle Russia. These articles are writing basically the White House has not decided how to act with the Russian Federation after concluding an agreement. This is in Politico, and at the Secretary of State Secretary of State press, the State Department press briefing. She even said, we're not pulling out our sanctions we have now, but we're not looking at new sanctions yet. There is no unified position on further steps, which could lead to difficult decisions, including direct pressure on Russia. The next step could be to tighten sanctions if the president chooses this path, but there are no next steps planned yet.
Or publicly. Look, you might be right. All I can say is what I can see, and what I can see is they're setting the table. But you might be right. The decision may already have been made, and this is how they're going, softening the ground in order to move that direction. I just don't know.
Okay, let me give you 7 bullet statements and we'll conclude with this. We're 15 minutes into this video. Thank you guys for being here. And what are your comments? Drop a comment on these video clips. Do you think the U.S. is in or out? Now,
by the way, there are some viewers that may not know who you are, or are not from. If they're watching me, they might not know Greg Terry Experience is the channel to go to see what Greg's talking about, or Professor Gerdes Explains to find me if they're watching your channel.
On my channel.
So, yeah. So go see the other if you haven't yet.
We work together daily, and that's basically the truth. Now, with that said, let's see if you change your thoughts after you hear Russian responses. And this is what they have said today in their media. Point number 1, the United States President Donald Trump's desire to become a peacemaker and stop killing is commendable. Okay, agreed. Number 2, but the main point is missed. Stop funding the Ukrainian regime. It is impossible to achieve results if you demand a ceasefire and at the same time make mineral deals with the Nazis. It's their position.
Okay.
Trump actively criticized Biden for not only allowing the war to begin, but also for financing it. We heard that even on the videos earlier. April 28, 2025, Kyiv announces that the parties had an important agreement. Ukraine would not have to return funds for the military aid previously provided by the United States. Next, Zelensky not only owes nothing to the U.S. for the $350 billion, but also does not have to hold snap elections.
They're talking about $350 billion.
That's their
rubles?
number. They're just throwing, they're throwing the Trump number out there. They're throwing the Trump number out there. There has been no serious progress in eliminating the root causes of the war.
Which is Russian imperialism.
Exactly. Trump's team is retreating and stalling in the matter of détente and establishing a lasting peace.
Well, I think they're seeing that they are retreating, or at least setting the table, as we said. Go back to point number 2.
Okay, point number 2.
Yeah. The main point is missed. Stop funding the Ukraine. It's impossible to achieve results if you demand a ceasefire and at the same time make mineral deals with Ukraine, right? Okay, what they call them Nazis, but whatever. So that's right. It is. Like, why on earth is the United States an honest broker, or trying to play honest broker here, instead of being on the side of the victim as opposed to the victimizer? That's been so maddening here since the Trump administration took over. Like, you're doing it all wrong. You should be helping the victim achieve a level of pushing. Like, this was a tremendous breach of international law. And so, and like JD Vance's clip, still not being willing to call, like, well, they both have to do this. Well, but one's the victimizer and the other's the victim. There's a difference, and they just won't, or they aren't willing to say it.
We have reached what is called a tupik dead end. And I think the United States is recognizing it, because they thought you could just strong arm Putin and Zelensky, but they did not have the appropriate understanding and concept of what this war is about. And
where's the strong arming of Putin, though? I see the
strong arming of Putin is he's my friend. That's the strong arm. I'm serious. That's the strong arm. He'll do. Listen, it's been Trump's own videos. Putin will do this only for me. Only for me. I can pull multiple videos. He'll do it only for me. No.
Yeah. It's not working so well.
It's not working. So we definitely are entering a new phase with the mineral deal. The approaching, and I know you're going to be doing a piece on this already or later, about we're not going to have Victory Day in the United States. And our Victory Day is wrong, because we had
Trump
two Victory
really admires
Days.
this kind of thing. I just don't understand the way he thinks about some things.
Okay.
But I will cede your last point. I think was exactly right, and that is that we are in a new phase. Post mineral deals, I think they have turned a corner. Okay, we've got this. We can declare some kind of victory, and maybe they have already decided behind closed doors that they're not going to do this. Maybe this is part of why Waltz is out. I mean, he was one of the more hawkish members that was trying to toe the line, but still in his heart, I think is more hawkish, just like I think Rubio is, but he's trying to toe the line. So,
well, he's got 4 hats now towing.
Yeah, he's way too busy.
He's way too busy, and hey, we're not in their shoes. We do what we do, but for sure, there's definitely a lot of movement and change. I can show you. Here's what's happening in Moscow tonight. That is Moscow State University, and that is the Russian paratrooper division preparing, marching through the streets of Moscow. So, this is what we're seeing.
If they could tighten it up a little bit, that would provide a better target for the drones that are very likely to be part of this. I mean, I don't understand how Putin wouldn't think that this was a case, considering and it's more of a target than it was this time last year, because Ukraine's capabilities are so much improved this year right now over last year. I mean, last year I think they could have done it. This year I think they really have the capacity in a meaningful way. So I'm not being facetious. I think something very bad could happen in Moscow during the parade or in parts around it. So,
well, I will tell you this. What I'm reading and hearing from Ukraine is they're already being forbidden to do that, begged by the Americans and by Europeans, because Xi Jinping will be there, and they are being begged, do not strike. That's why the video I played yesterday at the deputy says, we can strike it. We don't have to strike it on May the 9th. We can strike it anytime.
They should do it. They should do it the day before.
The day before,
just to show them.
That's.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying? Like, just to say we can do this, and then that puts Putin into a quandary about, do we go on with this thing? If we don't go on with this thing, right? I mean, yeah.
Well, I think we can conclude with this. We've turned into a new chapter, as we turn into May.
Absolutely.
And of course, with that, the weather changes over there. It's drier now. It's warmer now. And I can tell you, it's tough in Pokrovsk today, and it's also tough in Sumy. Russia's pushing. And guys, if you do not know this, Russian forces are in the Sumy region pushing. So it's not getting a lot of attention. I need to do a frontline update, but it's challenging. So we stand. Thank you, man.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for doing this, and hope
you.
this is helpful to the audience to understand these perspectives of what's going on. I don't know that we could both be wrong. But I think there's some movement here. Something has changed.
Agreed. You guys have a great day. We'll be back at you later. Lots is changing fast. Bye-bye.